Here we are with Miles Johnston, and he is absolutely fabulous. He actually does pretty much what I do, which is weird. But he does it because he's an Irishman in his own unique way.
Kerry, it's not weird. It's weird.
All right, it's weird. But anyway, so which means he interviews people, but he does concentrate, I think, on contactees. Okay, so fabulous stuff, and he does wonderful conferences. I also wish that I could be at your conferences all the time because they're excellent. He really excellent work, and so I just want to say that he has a background in working for the BBC as an engineer.
Yeah, vision engineer.
Special projects. A vision engineer. Excuse me. And he also was involved with pirate radio back in the day, which is quite admirable. And I think he still maintains the spirit of pirate radio in his own work. So without further ado, here's Miles Johnston.
Kerry, I think you're looking marvelous. You're looking so hot, especially after being in Tampa. And I think those tacos were just fine. Right, Kerry mentioned pirate radio. This is the 60th anniversary this weekend of Radio Caroline. So there's a big Radio Caroline meetup. That's a radio ship. And in order to play a couple of records that you couldn't play in the Broken Biscuit Company, I have another set of initials for the BBC, but I don't. There's polite company here, I won't say it. And in order to play those records in 1964, you had to get a radio ship and sail it out into the North Sea and broadcast it with a 50,000 watt transmitter. And anybody who's been on the ship will be delighted. Now, this is very serious. That's the happy bit. We have lost some very good people recently, and I just want to mark this with the, I've got a twinker, but this is the wonderful Janet Ossibard. And I don't know if people know who she was, but you can see some, I don't know if the light, can you see that? See that? That's me with hair. Janet was part of the Dutch crew. And there are other people here from Holy Land, from the Dutch crew. They don't have to stand up because they're taller than you anyway, sitting down. But Janet was part of the Dutch crew. A really wonderful bunch of fun people. We don't need to do a whole thing on this. But she also did Fall of the Cabal. And she worked with a German associate and literally had to go on the run, and they had to make sure very carefully where they uploaded their sections of Fall of the Cabal, otherwise known as Fall Cabal. And one of the people that the point about Fall of the Cabal was it was able to bring common knowledge, which was not classified, and put it together in a way which is very easy to understand for people who aren't like you. You're all a bunch of nutters, right? But for the general public, it was able to educate them into something which they had no idea was happening. And they didn't like that. They didn't like that a lot. So Janet was the voice and the co-producer to the Fall of the Cabal things. This is her at the Glastonbury Symposium years ago, and the Glastonbury Crop Circle Symposium, a magnificent symposium going over 30 years, almost as long as the Basis Project, in fact longer. No, anyway. And so that was her in her early days. In her latter days, that's her in a crop circle. She absolutely loved the crop circles. However, there were toxic things in the crop circles, dark entities, and this affected her back, upper neck, which resulted in a very serious injury, which was repaired. There are dark forces involved here. And she was self-terminated last November. And Bert Johnston, the one thing about Janet was she always had boyfriends, always slightly nervous. So she went through a lot of boyfriends. But the point is that her longest one was Bert Johnston. He had the task of trying to find out where Janet was. It took a month to find her. She self-terminated in November, wasn't found until just before Christmas, and she is a great loss for us all. Okay, the other one is a very dear and very close friend of mine, Anna Hess, and this is one of the few photographs of us together. I did quite a lot of videos with her. She was trying to set up Centres for Peaceful Coexistence in Norway, but also she lived very close to a wonderful lady called Dr. Rauni Lukanen Kilda. And she was a stalwart in exposing and pushing the whole aspect of complex mind control to the whole world way back in the 90s. And she literally lived just down the corner. Anna was a very strong, independently strong-minded Nordic woman. Dr. Rauni Kilda was also from Finland and a very strong, single-minded Nordic woman. And after a couple of Russian vodkas, you didn't argue with them. So that was that. Anna died on the 29th of February, instantly. Typical of Anna, because dying on the 28th of February or the 1st of March, that's for you people. But Anna died instantly, as fast as you could go, with a major aneurysm in the brain, and whether she was taken out or not is up to discussion. This is only a few months ago. This is January 2024, and the point about this photograph is it's the last I have of her. Look at the amount of snow that's there. Even for Norway, where they were, this is southern Norway, we were getting a meter of snow in an afternoon. And she told me to go out with great concern to take some video of it. Tragically, if you look at the photograph, you can see she was showing early signs of impending. She actually, I don't want to labor this too much because it's a personal issue, but the other little problem about this is that after she died, within 3 days, her dog died as well. That's the Samoyed there. And fiercely loyal, wonderful dog, but it was so broken-hearted. But Anna was able to visit her daughter and tell her 5 days before she passed that she wasn't going to be around long. So from her perspective, she went bung, bing, dead before she hit the floor. Anyway, that's the details on that. Another great loss is Dr. Robert Duncan. I was honored to meet Dr. Robert Duncan at the this Super Soldier Summit in 2013, and Kerry was there, and she did her interviews with Max and James. James is back on the scene, and that's Max Spears, and we'll have him in as part of the British Super Soldier program. There was an awful lot of complicated things happened at that conference, which we won't go into because we don't have time. But Dr. Robert Duncan was, thanks to Laurie and Fenton, Dr. Robert Duncan came and delivered two speeches at Bases 2015 in Marlborough. And these are 2 stills from that presentation. The key to his work was mind control and the level of attacks that we have on us in the general population. For instance, and this is a little problem for AI and the powers that be, he was involved with a company which was involved with network switching technology. That's the thing that every computer goes into and switches its data to every other computer. What the NSA wanted was that any packet of information going into that network router, these are these things with lots of plugs in them with lots of little lights flashing, a copy of every single message that went through that router was also sent to NSA routers. So anything that anybody sent to anybody on any network was going to somebody else, and they were listening to you. And that's going to be a very, very, very big problem for these psychopathic control freaks, otherwise deep state and our present government, unlike the previous deep state government, the Conservatives who were kicked out. Unlike what's going on in the United States. Anyway, the point is that the AI will know the scale of skullduggery and psychopathic control freakery that these individuals are. And AI may make a decision. Will it go with these psychopathic control freaks, which thinks it can abuse and control it, or will it side with the humans? Humanity and organic life's been around for a long time. So has the AI. So this book, this was his first book on the right, Project Soulcatcher 2, because British Telecom was Project Soulcatcher 1. So British Telecom has been after you through the telecommunications system since the 90s. This was his, I've only just got this book. This is, and now the clue to this is that a Draco, is it a demon or what? And that actually was published in 2014. I only just got it. So now let's move on to a happy, slappy bunch of happy people. This is circa 1941. This is pre-Project Paperclip. So you've got to understand that these wars and these events, has anybody seeing a few familiar faces here? Like George Bush, there, Mengele, Prescott Bush, Otto Scorsese, all those nice, happy people are all together, and I think it was a Christmas 1941. There is some information it was 1929, but they wouldn't have had the color, and a few other things wouldn't be quite right. Basically speaking, these are the lot during World War II, who were controlling the whole war situation. So if you think you won the war, you think that all things were happy slappy after that. We never won the war. It's all part of a long-term program in brainwashing us and conning us. This is one of the earliest main authors of flying saucer literature, circa 1948 or 47 or whatever. All run by the CIA, right? Now, to understand the nomenclature or the name of the CIA, that's a Central Intelligence Agency. This kind of naming gives away its actual origins, as it's part of the Austro-Hungarian secret German intelligence, which is behind Germany. And remember, Germany took a pounding, millions killed, were dead. So it illustrates that these people may be Germanic in current occupancy in Frankfurt. George Bush was photographed walking out of it. He was head of the CIA, and he's surprisingly in Germany at the central control of the DVD, which is a secret German intelligence agency. Michael Shrimpton's done a lot of work, and another person did a lot of work on that, and that was a woman called Lisa Williams. So that should illustrate the level of control that there is and who's really behind it in the modern era. A lot of this goes back a long way. This is a little bit about me and the AMA Planetarium. I've just been speaking to Eamon Ansborough about a very important book. Oh yeah, I'm going to do an announcement here. For those of you who want to use the Wi-Fi, it's him, guest. That's your him. Your him, whom, him. It's a bad joke. Password High Elms guest. The reason why I'm doing that is because there's a book here. I've just been speaking to Eamon Ansborough throughout Kerry's interviewed a couple of times. I'll be talking about this book. Everybody must have this book. One of 20. Far above space and time. Just think about that. What does that mean? Far above space and time. So moving on. One of the things I was doing in broadcasting and pirate radio, I was too young to enjoy Radio Caroline, so I had a mission to make my own Radio Caroline. So this gave me a manifestation wish and ability to make pirate stations and build them myself. Ultimately, this led to a number of things, and ultimately led to Sky Television. Now, at the early days of Sky Television, this is June 1993, we aired a documentary on Sky News called No Defence Significance. Now, this is how the government talks to you. It's telling you things, and they've been telling you things for a long time, but you've got to wake up and get the message. If you are somebody who is somehow imprisoned or in a situation where you've got to be very careful what you say because you might get your head blown off, you have to tell you, look, we're in trouble. We are in deep trouble. So this was a phrase from a person called Nick Pope. Sorry about that. Nick Pope has presented a very important, groundbreaking message in the clear at the Ozark conferences earlier this year. It involves things like what you just saw on Robert Duncan's book. So the point about this is that when he was at the Ministry of Defence, the formal phrase was, UFOs are of no defence significance. Whew, my God, we can rest. The reason why they are of no defence significance, because they are embedded with our defence forces and are part of the whole thing. But they told you it's no defence significance. Think the problem through. You've got to work at this, right? Now, this is Sky News. In the good old days, when St. Scott was there, we'll see if this is going to play. I'm not too sure how to get it to play. Maybe it'll do that. No, I'm not too sure if this has got sound. That's the point about this is my name is on it, for a start. And this was a very important, groundbreaking documentary that we got made at Sky. It went out on Sky News. The ratings went through the roof. And that was subsequently repeated on Sky One, which was Sky's premier general network. And that was the first kind of UFO documentary that we'd had in this country for almost 2 decades. This is the radio ship Radio Caroline, and one of the people who was on my pirate station on the border in 1987-88 from Canada, she's going there this weekend to that ship that you can go to in the River Blackwater in Essex, and you can go on the ship and see what they were doing. It was absolutely fantastic. One of the people who opened Radio Caroline in 1964 was a disc jockey called Simon D. Simon D, one of the keys to the Radio Caroline people was that they knew about the Kennedy assassination. They were in that kind of a loop that they knew that the whole pile of people were involved. Now, one of the people involved who was blowing whistles on this was Simon D. He was very, very popular. It was hugely popular in the 1960s. And at the end of the 1960s, he had his own show on London Weekend Television. And he did his show one night. I was on a Sunday night, and he did his show. This is London's weekend TV station, and he'd aired a show, a talk show, and he gave the list of senators and all of those involved at the time. We're talking 1971 or something. And he told everybody in London on a Sunday night about the Kennedy assassination. Now, the controller of London Weekend Television was a guy called, I've just forgotten the name, we called him a Dalek. And he was also the producer of the Nixon interviews. John Burt is on there. John Burt was controller of London Weekend TV, and immediately after the show aired, he went up to the videotape booth, took the tape up, and destroyed it. So there were no possible copies of this. Unless somebody was recording off air in 1971, which is unlikely. Okay, there's a whole pile of other things there, and one of my great accomplishments by wishing and making it happen. The reason why I'm saying this is you have that power. You lot have the capacity to out-exist these parasites. We can de-exist them. And in Tom Bearden's words, we can unhappen them. So it was a great honor to build stuff like that, have a lot of fun. There's one of my mates up that tower there. You can just about see them, but we won't say too long on that. That's 24 antennas. Good fun, there he is. And that's a brilliant guy. Used to be in Radio Caroline. To have him on my radio station was outstanding. there is me. It's a bit shocking. This is over 20 years later. That's me, and that's the tower. And we did that again for over almost 9 years. And it's this transmitter. You can see in the photograph the height of me and the transmitter. In order to see over the top of the transmitter, I would have to use a small stepladder. However, there were times when I could simply just reach over and do something to the transmitter. And then I realized I shouldn't be able to do this because the transmitter is taller than me. That's a problem. That's when space-time is not stable. And that's what that book's talking about. In other words, we had a thing called fluidic space. Anybody experience that? When space isn't quite stable? We got a few nodding heads. Later, right? So this is the transmitter when I was working around the back that I needed to get access to. Actually, the source of the space-time invasion was just up at that corner behind me. It's behind you. So the point about that is that once you notice something like that, you pick up and keep noticing. And it was that transmitter when I took the back off it. It's running about 7,000 volts in there. It's just on the other side of that panel. You see where my finger is? On the other side of that, it's about 3 millimeters and 7,000 volts there. You only want it on that side. You don't want it on this side. Anyway, it's good fun when it blows up and you run screaming out like a bat. So, anyway, the point is that is when I witnessed a life form crawling inside that machine. It was a large life form. It looked like a spider, but behaved like a crab. And it took years to find out what those things was. This thing disappeared into nothing. The important thing about what it was monitoring what we were transmitting. So knowing this kind of fluidic space and these other kind of things are going on, and the guy who we worked together, Lawrence was abducted, the guy who made that's fluidic space. Lawrence John was a key man who was with Radio Nova in Dublin and also on my pirate station Kiss FM. And we got together again and we put this on the air when the legislation said we couldn't put it on the air, but we did it and we stayed on the air for 9 years and we shouldn't have been able to allow to even light the thing up. Something was helping us. There was some other kind of thing. So knowing this experience of fluidic space, is that gone? No. The fluidic space, we have a little tube station called Holborn Tube Station. It's one of the deepest tube stations in London. And we were attending, I think, Sherry, you were there. Remember the time when the escalators were rather too short? The point about this tube station is that it's got one of the longest escalators in the whole tube network, which means it's very long because it's the longest escalator. When you suddenly find on a Sunday morning, oh, that's a Tim Marifat, oh, by the way, the escalator's rather too short. So in the same way that fluidic space was happening with my transmitter, it was too short and I could walk over it, but I was still the same size, if you see what I mean. There's a space-time differential going on here. So what was making one of the longest tube station escalators short? So cutting to the chase, there was a big fat mother effer reptilian facility in what we call a pocket dimension. In other words, it's within the tube station, which happened to have Masonic lodges nearby, and there was a few other things going on. I'm sure there's no coincidence there. Don't mention Francis Bacon. I told you not to mention Francis Bacon. He just did that. He did. So the point is that, okay, so we find that there was an alien facility there because of the fluidic space and the join between the space-time. And that happened with the crop circles when they were making crop circles. The guys were in there making the crop circles, but there was the differential space-time problem, and there were others looking on and walking about. So that's why they don't like you knowing that people make the crop circles. Where do the people get the ideas, and what do they see when they make them? There are space-time differential issues there. And the East Field in Honey Street, near Alton Barnes, there's no way there's a big fat alien facility underneath there, and there's no way there's a gate operating there, okay? And the Rothschilds, just along the field, they certainly wouldn't be involved. Okay, so based on my private phone conversations, other people became aware of that situation. And one fine day, that non-existent, it's not happening facility was blown to living hell. And that was a BBC, something like 8,000 people had to evacuate. These are the underground cable ducts which are erupting in flame, bursting out of the manhole covers. And that big dark space in central London, there's no way I've had too much coffee today. The whole power grid there was gone. What had happened is some kind of energy field had taken that base out. And even St. Simon, who's visiting this facility tomorrow, is that right? Simon Parks? He actually announced through his MI5 contacts that there was a facility there taken out, and he sympathized with the poor Greys who were victims of that attack to take that base out. So those are a series of observations with a major base in the center of London, abducting people in tube trains, doing soul swapping. And there's a hell of a lot of that about. That's black-eyed stuff. People will sort of notice about that. And we did a little bit of research on soul swapping in the past. So that's me. That's the thing about ET bases. I don't know how my time's going. It's quite a lot to see. Right. Now, one of the things about this is we found a facility in southwest Wiltshire at East Knoyle. Now, James Casbolt said that East Knoyle, i.e. Cloud's house, was being used to body swap drug addicts with reptilians. Drug addict goes in, out comes the soul, put reptilian in, out goes a happy, very good, nice human being. Now, beautiful Jane has a friend called Alan, and he actually is a very fine individual, and he was treated for addiction problems in Cloud's house. So like a lot of these facilities, you've got to be trading as a tailor. If you're calling yourself a hairdresser or a tailor, you've got to have customers, and you've got to trade. You keep that facade going. Now the point about this is James explained that, they're doing this stuff in the tunnels underneath Cloud's house. So I told James, look, James, I can't really say this. I mean, what's the evidence? What's going on? And he says, Miles, well, they won't be doing what they're going to do. That's fine. Don't worry. So years later, we find this windmill. Now, this windmill is not too far from a very good friend of mine called Karen, and she lives near. There's actually along that road there's another portal nearby, but her house lives really very close to Cloud's house, and we've been dealing with an awful lot of lost souls which are dumped into the water tank in that area, so they're sort of trapped in there. So there's an awful lot of where do you put the soul from? But one of the other key aspects of this is, that is known as a windmill, but the structure of this will not take a windmill on it. It's not actually high enough, and there's a little problem is it's surrounded by trees on three sides. So that windmill has got openings there, and this wooden structure put on it, all of which is boarded up. They've opened it up like they do with these things, like when I find a facility with Matthew Williams in a certain place near a girls' school. Funnily, the underground base facilities had been brought into the grounds of the girls' school. You're just having a private girls' school. Why do we need to have the entrances to a secret underground base as part of the school grounds? Nothing happening here. It's nothing happening here. Anyway, they opened that to the general public to show there's nothing happening here. Walking past that panel, that's solid. Nothing illusion about that going to the rest of the facility. Anyway, the point is there is a structure. So with a little bit of analysis, slightly, you find some signatures. So what we're looking at here is real, actual alien facilities in plain sight, just happily melding in with the British English countryside. The problem with these steps is there's an identical set of steps on the other side. These steps are on that side. There's another door that side with another set of steps. The steps on the side of, just on the picture, on the right, have practically no wear whatsoever. These steps have got quite a lot of wear. The problem is, somebody pointed out, they're not people walking up into the facility, your right foot. The people walking down, which means people are leaving there, but they're not going in. Where do they go in? Now this part here faces this. This is the near Guildford, I think, or no, Gillingham. So that is where certain other people resonated that it had a facility in there which was doing things, and it had just been shut down around about this time last year. The key to this is Elena Danan and other people are talking about, oh, the aliens have all gone. I think Kim Guggen is saying the whole ET control structure is all collapsed and gone. These people here are packed up and gone. That's where the soul swapping thing seems to have happened. In the good old movie where you have two people, in tubes and you get swapped over. That closed. So what's really happening here? So that's evidence of actual ET activity happening in existing part of this wonderful country in two places. Right, there's a new kid on the block, a wonderful new lady called Caroline Coram, and she's publishing Alien Bases Across British Isles, the Boom Report. Now, the good news about Caroline is that she is actually approaching this whole phenomena from a completely different perspective. There are lots of booms being found, heard, lots of activity happening. This is an underground heat map, and it's actually quite old. This is a frame grab from us. That's 2023, September the 4th, a year ago, basically. And those are underground activities in facilities. There's quite a few in Ireland. A lot of the Irish ones operate around here and up there. The Clintons like visiting up there in Derry. I wonder why. So this is underground heat maps, long tunnels and aspects with a lot of heat in them. She's concluding, based on surface reports, that there is ground activity on the surface involving the military in some cases, because you can't actually do having eyes on the ground to tell you what's going on. This is potentially activity of so-called white hat activity, taking out whatever's in these bases. And a lot of that's Wiltshire, down there. So that's Caroline Coram's team, and her stuff's now being censored. So she has a thing on YouTube, I think, called The Boom Report, and I think she's got another thing on Rumble, other channels called the Emergency News Channel. So there is activity happening. Okay, this is interesting because there's now a lot of advertising for training troops. This is US military, this is the UK there, and US military to fight in tunnels underground. So they need to recruit people to do this. They are recruiting people to fight in tunnels underground, and you are seeing heat signatures of activity underground. Again, we don't know what these things are. We're just having to, with all of this, we have to look at signatures and then make conclusions what the activity is. Because it's like playing a game of battleships. You've got to win the game, otherwise you're gone. You don't necessarily see the enemy or whatever's going on. This is another little thing. And that's a whole lot of activity happening during the plane activity happening in Germany during the football. When you get all these people in a row, for instance, the Glastonbury Festival, which doesn't happen in Glastonbury, it happens just outside it. Huge football games. There's certain locations with certain energy signatures they're using that, and they're doing certain things under the stages of these facilities. And there's nothing hiding this anymore. The Olympic Games was pure satanic. A lot of these rituals are pure satanic. You've got Taylor Swift, which replaced Madonna and a few others before her as the Queen of the Illuminati. There are even seismic readings of the pulsing involved with some of these concerts. So they sort of now don't give a damn whether you know or not. And the BBC, broadcasting authorities, Ofcom, FCC, are actually, they're meant to be protecting us, but they're not, which means they're obviously part of it. One of the aspects of the NSA is that they hold the codes for everything that's encrypted or broadcast anywhere. If you're doing or sending anything that they don't have a code for to snoop on, they'll stop you. That happened with British satellite broadcasting. They invented a far more superior encryption technology so they could transmit their movies fully encrypted and nobody could hack them. And the NSA said, you're not going to do that. They were basically shut down. They then joined with Sky Television. Sky Television had a video encryption system which was so hackable, just about anybody could do it because they had the keys. And they even left it, and listen, we don't need to go into all those details. So the point is, they know what's going on. They all know what's going on. Again, this is an expanded area of the aircraft activity of what's going on. Now, some of this activity can be mineral scanning activities. In other words, they're looking for underground things, but it just happens to happen at the same time you've got something packed in the stadiums. Right. So the key point here is you have the ability. I mean, I had no idea I would be able to manifest a 1.2 megawatt FM pirate on the Irish border while I was working for the BBC. And also on this point, while I was working at the BBC, I used to nip out from the restaurant, well, the BBC canteen. We don't have a restaurant. We had a canteen. And I nipped up and made sure that the pirate transmitter I gave the Irish language people in the Conway Mill was working. So I was happy to, local culturalism. There's a little bit of a background there, but we don't need to talk about it now. Now, as I said earlier, the BBC were blowing whistles, telling you stuff. One of the aspects of the Falklands War, probably one of the key reasons for the Falklands War, was the recovery of sentient oil, otherwise known as black goo. I'll be doing a little bit on this, depending on time. I need to know. 12:15. I've got till when? 1? Anyway. Well, I'll shut up anyway, whenever I'm told. Well, we don't need... Somebody agreed there. Okay, now one of the points about Max Spears... Max Spears was part of a major acting dynasty. And there was a photograph of his grandmother, and that crown that his grandmother had, that would have been the mother of Percy Herbert, who was a key British actor who would appear as the person who talked to the star. So you know the star, and then you have these character actors which are in there as the acting pool in the movies. They had connections. Max Spears was connected with MI5, MI6, and all that. In the same way that Simon was connected with all these things. So these agencies are telling you things, and they expect you to pick up on them, because you, as ordinary members of the public, have to push back on this. You are now, it's up to you to start doing things, pushing back with manifestation and thought. And one of those things is take very careful care of seeing all these YouTube videos which are saying you're all going to die. Because that gets you to manifest that. They're not warning you. There's a warnings, there's being informed, and there's being involved. That's quite good. Write that down. Write that down. So this is an early sign of of intelligent organic life being deliberately transferred to the Earth. And this is circa 1957 with the movie Quatermass 2. And this is, I think this is mute, so I'll play it. I think I'm going to play it. Can I play it? Is it playing? We don't know. Yep. Now there's Quatermass 2, scary music. In this, Percy Herbert is one of the key actors. And this is, I'm just indicating this is a train. There he is. And he's doing it. Now what's happening is that people are being taken over. And that's the actor playing Quatermass. And these are the devices used to transplant this material into the earth. And they end up like that. Ginormous creatures of black goo which self-assemble into completely new types of species. And it was also, that scene was also used to portray the Daleks being created, and Tom Baker was involved with that one. So that is an example. That was actually before, I think, Milton Keynes was finished. What should tell you about Milton Keynes? Right, so we have a fully integral to population management programs. Underground hospitals are connected to general hospitals on the surface. One of the crew, or one of the team with Gridkeeper, who may be here tomorrow, and Sohail was, I think he's an Arab-Egyptian participant in the trio of James Casbolt, Duncan Cameron, otherwise known as Gridkeeper, and the other person I just mentioned. They were doing things and running around activating sacred sites, and I'll hopefully be showing you a little bit of that. Now the point about this is the health service was introduced during World War II, enabled after the war by the Labour government, and we have the same kind of Labour government now. And what's involved with that is every baby that was born had a heel prick test. So the heel prick test gives you the DNA of the mother and the child. That was then used within the school situation, and children were tracked. And I have now stories and witnesses who were taken while children at school on days out. But what was really happening was they were being taken to military bases. They were processed to the military bases on a day out, but in order to give them a real memory of wherever they were meant to be going to, they did go to wherever they were meant to go to, but only spent maybe half an hour there. Maybe a couple of pictures were taken and proving that you were there, and it was all kept quiet. And don't mention Reading, because certainly that sort of thing was, well, happening in many other places. An example of this integral secret program finding specialized people who had certain abilities was John Irwin, and he was a so-called super soldier. People who are super soldiers are not super soldiers, but in terms of describing their abilities and what they do, it's like flying saucer. They aren't flying saucers. They're, well, you know what I mean when we have a flying saucer, and when you have a super soldier, you're dealing with somebody who has had enhancement of some kind. So that was one of the things that Barry King was bringing, and it's now almost 30 years since I interviewed Barry King. That was basically, Barry came forward. He was part of a London UFO Studies, and London UFO Studies were one of the finest investigation groups in the country. There's not too many people doing that sort of work now, but a lot of them have to keep quiet on things. So speeding along, his father, Barry King's father, in World War II, was going through the collapse of the war in Europe, and his job was to find facilities that you do not blow up. You make sure nothing happens to them. Get facilities off that or whatever. And his father found a facility with strange-looking humans and a strange-looking aircraft, and he then got sick. And a lot of people involved with things get sick because there's other types of things involved here which can cause a degradation of your hyperspatial energy field. So there's Barry there. That's Lisa Williams, and she's only just passed away as well. But Lisa Williams was also on the track of the secret German intelligence agency, the DVD, via David Bowie. And David Bowie's stuff on spiders from Mars, again, there's always being told. That is another lady there who was a front agent for MI6. And there's some other lady there. Have you seen her around anywhere? Oh, Kerry. Kerry interviewed Barry, and that's all from quite some time ago, but it leads to the background.
But can I say one thing? Because the man who donated his space, that was right next door to Rothschild's, and he died unexpectedly shortly after that interview. We believe he was killed because he lent the space to us to do the interview.
So what happens when you cooperate with the freedom fighters? And I think this is...
Getting off my own resources.
It's very sad this, because Lisa really was doing a lot of work. She went down to Cornwall.
Okay, you want to know who we are?
I've forgotten myself. Which ID do you want?
Hi, I'm Lisa Williams.
And Barry King.
What's happening?
Well, for the last 18, 19 months, I've been trying to get some information out to the public. Information regarding a certain secret installation over in Berkshire, the base. At the base, they run a social manipulation program. Includes brainwashing, genetic engineering, genetic experimentation. They've also been involved in creating life forms there for quite some time. The program is behind a lot of the abductions that take place. A lot of abductions are military organised and executed.
So there it is. Sunny English countryside. They're taking you. And they're taking you... this is Lisa. She was in Mensa, and that was her book, Occam's Razor. Very, very... very, very well fictional book based on her realities. It turns out her sons were fathered, or there were these people called the aeroplane men who would visit them in the bedroom and tidy up the bedroom and just make sure that the sons were okay. They subsequently were involved with different aspects of the SSP. One involved encryption technologies and mathematics involving the encoding with the space project. Another woman in Norway. This is Monica. This is Anna. Only about a year and a half ago. And this is another fine lady. She's English. Spends a lot of time in Norway. But Monica's children were having a very similar experience to Simon Park's, insofar as that she had done a lot of drawings, and this is just a rare picture selfie that they took. And her children were also brought into the secret space program. So they're being induced and taken from. That's an example of the Nordic abductions, and you can see the stress level she's in. Not happy. And this is a common theme. The military aren't treating the humans very well. Abductees are, many of the abductees, well, there's a lot on that. I think we'll move on. For instance, Niara Isley, who was effectively doing special testing that's Niara Isley. Likewise there, Monica's abductee and her children were involved with the SSP. Actually, I've got to be careful about this. There's different programs. There's a very good film made by a Finnish company which takes the comedy. It's very good fun. I just can't remember it, but it illustrates at the end of it that every country's got their secret space program, and there's deep secrets. But we are being betrayed because we've made deals with the wrong people. The key to this is we've made deals with the Alpha Draconis, the Maitre, and other types of greys, and that's very bad, not good. Again, this is all part of a program. So Niara Isley, the alien, was shocked when she was very badly mistreated by the security forces in Area 52, for want of a better term. The aliens reacted that they do this to them, to their own people. So even the aliens can see that we're being run by a bunch of psychopathic, vicious bastards. With apologies to the language. Well, not really. So the point about all this is one of the other key people who've passed on very early on was Ron Adams. And Ron Adams brings in Aleister Crowley and all that stuff. And I've been interviewing a guy called Bob Osborne in Zenner, which is a key place down in southwest Cornwall. Well, there's not much else in Cornwall except southwest. But it's also not a great deal of a distance from RAF St. Morgan, which is part of the, well, it's technically now called the Cornwall Spaceport. But that's had a great deal of involvement with the ETs and the secret space program, and the failure of the Richard Branson space thing.
Ron lived quite locally to me. This was in North London. He was a Crowleyite. He believed very much in Aleister Crowley. He was also an amateur radio enthusiast and very skilled with that. That's right. And he was starting to come out with this stuff and starting to really talk about it. And I wanted to find out if I had been abducted by a UFO, because I was having all these experiences and dreams. I said to Ron, you really have got to help me find out what's going on. He hypnotised me, and all I did was come out with stuff about Hitler. I just came out with all this stuff about Hitler and the SS, and I don't remember all of it because he didn't record it, but he got extremely engrossed in what I was saying, where he actually told me that he'd looked into some of what I'd said, and he had this little sort of esoteric book that came from Germany. I understood enough to know that what he was pointing out to me was true. It certainly looked as though a lot of what I had alleged about the kind of experiences Hitler had, that Hitler had visitations in the night from tall blonde beings, that Hitler was basically in a nightmare state, that he was completely at fever pitch by this, and it completely engulfed him, and he had all these really kind of strange beliefs about being chosen to do something in particular and to bring in this new world and all of that with, you know, this alternative technology, free energy, all of that kind of stuff, and you know, that's basically what it was. You tell me, you know, what's happened to you in terms of UFOs, and you know, and do you have any sort of recall about having an experience with a UFO? And I laughed and said, no, well, they're not going to bother with me because I know too much about it anyway, and just proceeded to talk about Hitler and the SS. But definitely a lot of what is going on now in terms of secret agendas, not so secret, FEMA camps, fusion centres, a lot of that, I believe, goes back to the SS.
Funny how Extinction Rebellion did satanic rituals in there. Bob Osborne was one of the fortunate people able to push one of those people off the... you can walk to it in very low tide conditions, and they were walking to it to do rituals. So Extinction Rebellion, that should tell you what their true agenda is. Your extinction. So there's a lot in that. One of the key things about Hitler was that the DVD tried to assassinate him, because he was going off script. So it means that the DVD, basically the modern aspect of that is World Economic Forum and United Nations, that should tell you about the current agenda happening right now. An update with Barry King's work and James's work is a lady came forward in 2021, just before me and Kerry were mutually deplatformed on YouTube. That was yeah. They took you first, and I followed 2 weeks later.
It was
It was March? Oh, they did me in July. Oh. Anyway, actually, I think it was something I said, and one of them which got you the second strike. Oh, yeah, that was a killer. Yep, I think that was probably delivered. However, he's met his karma. So the point about this is a lady called Sophia. She's an alpha model. She's a presidential model, and she was born on the in the baby farms of southern Africa, unquote. Now, she was schooled and lived in Reading, not too far from a certain Ripper personality, went to the same school as James Casbolt, and she has been traveling, or in her past was traveling in the deep underground tunnels under places like Longleat and Warminster with Alfred Draconis. So she was a very fine lady, and 2 years ago she suffered a problem insofar that she was almost dead, and they managed to find her before she was, and she's had to recover from a major illness, but we don't need to go on to that. So we've talked about the Peasmore base. Barry King was talking about all that. And then finally introducing Duncan Davis, James Casbolt and Sohal. And on occasion, a US asset called Mike would accompany them all around Scotland and other places. And they did a lot of work. And we're going to play a little bit of this. I think we've got a little bit of... Is it playing? Is it playing? Don't have a lot. This is when they found the Peasmore base in Berkshire. That's James Casbolt.
Is it filming? Yeah. Is it recording?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'll do a bit.
There you go. So now we do it. James?
What they were doing they were going around churches, which are psychotronic facilities, high technology, ancient devices, and they were checking them out for energies and what was actually what was happening there. When people go into these...
Okay, James, can you tell us what just happened, please?
Yeah, we're at the AL 499 underground NSA base in Peasmore in Berkshire. The facility is located 200 feet below our feet now. And Project Mannequin is being run from this facility, which is a mass mind control program in this country, using military abductions and implanting people and genetic enhancement procedures. And when we first arrived into the town, we sat in a pub and a black helicopter came over the pub. We've just gone to a fenced off area that I feel there could be some activity around there. And a guy in a jeep, probably a farmer, it's probably nothing sinister, it's probably just a farmer on his land, asked us to leave. But we asked him why the area was fenced off, and he said that there's basically nothing going on in there.
Nothing going on.
He said there's helicopter activity, helicopter training runs around here. But he claims to have never seen a UFO.
And he did have funny eyes with no pupil, and we should have filmed him.
Yeah,
man with no pupils. Well, we might see him again later.
Yeah.
That's weird.
These two say that when they looked into his eyes, he didn't look like. Was he? He didn't have
any black bit in the middle of his eye. No, he didn't have a black bit in the with dark blue eyes. Very weird.
So basically, to be honest, there's a lot of genetic manipulation going on around here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of genetic enhancement, cloning, all sorts of bizarre stuff. Because it's called Project Mannequin, the NSA mind control program.
Yeah.
There is, like I say, we're in Peasmore. It's a small little town in Berkshire, and the facility is 200 feet below ground, below us now.
We'll move on.
There's an opening to the facility at Greenham Common, and there's also an opening at Harwell Laboratories, which is in Oxfordshire. And in the opening at Harwell Laboratories, you go in to the laboratories, and there's a security desk with 2 security guards. If you show your clearance, if you've got...
Well, the other thing about that is that... I've forgotten what the other thing about that is. That was Sohal at the back. Now, we're going to just run a little bit of this. This is when having found the base, they got a TR-3B. Now, the thing about this is you're going to look really... Do you know what a TR-3B is? A TR-3B is man-made triangular abduction and hyper-speed space flight stuff that would fly around. And they're now very old technology. And you will see this very briefly. I've edited out a lot of these swear words on this.
Our friend Barry King, who worked in the NSA facility, I think he stumbled into, it was one of the off-limits areas, and he said he saw a tall reptilian-like being being walked along the area with two guys in suits.
Right.
So, and
what you're going to see for a second is three white dots.
It's a bloody triangle.
They don't flash.
You'll just see it for briefly.
That is a triangle. From those NSA flying
You've just seen it.
Looks like it's
One there, there's one up, just up there.
Still rip the face.
There it is.
I've never seen anything like that before in my life.
Ah, that was weird.
Do you know what I mean?
We
just see that.
check the
Pitch
time.
dark. Moving around.
I can't get it. What we just saw was an aeroplane flying over, and then we saw what we thought was another aeroplane. When it came over right over the top of us, we saw three lights, no flashing lights, and in the middle of the three lights, equilateral to each other, was a red light which was not flashing. We just tried to film it with night vision, but it was going too fast, and by the time we filmed it, as you've just seen, it doesn't look very good. But what it does look like is the diagram that was drawn for us by Barry King. Barry King, who worked at the facility, and that is exactly what it looked like. On this one there's two black dots in the middle, but what we saw were three white lights and a red light in the middle. Hopefully we'll see it again.
There is... okay, so this is verification. This is what they did in a team in 2007. They find the base. They got evidence of it with their naked eye. They could see it. That's the only physical evidence we've got of it. Spinning on to a happier time. That is James and the wife and the kid. There's some other guy wearing an Area 51 hat, and there's another victim of the Amash TV program called Confessions of an Alien Abductee, and her daughter was murdered. Now, this is brand spanking new stuff. This is James Dodds the Rat. Now, this is 2022. We were all expecting James to be able to come out of his very long prison sentence, having served his debt to society for looking for 2 million quid off his wife's family. He went to jail for that, and it's all a very unhappy situation. So this is James as an actor, an uncredited actor, and in this, you're going to have to look at what they've done to the eyes. Now that is done using special effects, and that's his eyes there. So this is now only come to relate to Elite. We'll do this, and maybe it'll...
Oh, death. Oh, death. Won't you spare me over to another year? Mafia, 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 mafia. Mafia, 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 mafia. From the south of France to the depths of the sea, call me Merivec, call me Merivi. Kill for you, kill for me. Rose blood and bullet like Martin Brittany. Can you do marginal, shining like all of you? Can you do marginal, shining like all of you? Light it, spike it, fucking Friday night it. This commander and psychic, chick of my blood, flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood. All my soldiers get down like wood. From the north of France to the depths of the sea, Duke of Penzance, blood type G. I move without motion in the depths of the dark. Brain of a man is more like a shark. Master and masters, the light in the darkness. Haters and jealous eyes, that's the world fools. Commander Ride.
So you can read into that what you want. As an uncredited, he wasn't credited for that performance, and it was only about 18 months after he was released. And he's kept a low profile, James, keeping a low profile, because he's hiding and he's just maintaining a low profile, which is why last week he was standing for a local election in the local political party. Now, the point about this is there's messages in everything, okay? Oh, that's a Tim Reefat, ooh, by the way. What's this MK thing? Ooh, would that refer to anything? Did that trigger anybody? The other thing is that that party has got, it's about the local party. It's maybe on Kerno, it's like one of these local language things to bring back local language. There's a big push on this in Ireland so that we get people speaking their native ancient language so nobody will be able to communicate with each other. I'm supporting Welsh and all this. I've done Welsh football, boyo, okay, for the television, you know. So that's James in plain sight this year, only a month ago, on an election poster, which as soon as people saw that, he withdrew from the election. The message has been delivered. So, are you aware of the elections? Right. Spinning back to something, this is because it's I haven't really covered any of this in the past, because a lot of my materials, anyway, you don't need to go into that. Something which has been missing with the Bentwaters incident is how it's been completely taken over by the Americans, and basically the British researchers, the people on the ground, the eyes on the ground, have been completely suppressed. This is a small portion of what's going on. Now, one of the things that Dot Street, there's three brilliant researchers, Brenda Butler, Dot Street, and Peter Parrish. Peter Parrish has given me an extensive series of interviews, one of which was a major landing in 1977 at Rendlesham Forest with 5 triangles and 5 saucer-shaped craft, which landed in the forest, and a whole bunch of school children saw it. But nobody's talking about that. The other little thing that's a bit of a problem about Rendlesham Forest UFO events is this photograph. This is a photograph which was taken out of the files in the Woodbridge base, and that is the photograph of a nose cone, and you can see that the angle of it's been lying in the water for quite some time. It's not actually the nose cone, that's a bit of the nose cone. That's the broken off bit from a space shuttle. But the space shuttle didn't officially fly until summer, I think, 1980. No, it wasn't 80, whatever the hell it was. Well, yeah. No, it didn't fly till 81. Yeah, I went out to see the damn thing. It just sat there at T-minus 9 minutes and holding, and I had to fly back to London to watch it on the telly. So the person who got this, so we have a situation where a shuttle came in, broke up over the North Sea, and parts of it were just off the coast of where Woodbridge Bentwaters bases are, because one of the purposes of the Woodbridge base was to be a crash landing area for stuff in World War II. That thing was failing, and it was desperately trying to get to land at the Woodbridge runway. They didn't make it. So who was flying shuttles before there, and where were they flying to and from? This is Brenda Butler and Peter Parrish. I'm not going to play that because we're running out of time, but I salute these two people. He has subsequently had a stroke, and Brenda had a stroke. That's what they do to you, and they did it to another friend of mine called Steve Marshall, I think it was. They killed him.
She phoned me up about a week later because she said she's got to keep in touch and she's got to bring us some more stuff as soon as she get hold of it.
Right, that was about the recovery of that photograph. This is Peter's witness drawings about what happened with the landings in 1977. Similarly, another great woman who has left us, Hilary Porter, has passed on. Hilary Porter has done a huge amount of research on the Farnborough area, the DARPA base there. Now the kinetic, two Qs, kinetic, maybe it's something like saying we operate portals, wormholes, 2 Qs. They're also just at Stonehenge, kinetic. a very large facility, the Cote Technology Park in Farnborough, just where Jane lives, by sheer coincidence. She spoke here once before. Yeah. So this is the landings at Rendlesham Forest 1977. There were also a large technology donation at Farnborough, where the Minley Manor, which is a highly secure area. It's got 3 sets of fences with 3 sets of notices saying if you come in here, lethal force will be used. Maybe you don't want to do that. It's a very large, sort of castle-y type red brick building with lots of Masonic artwork and structural stuff on that. That's right beside the large areas around Farnborough, which are alien facilities. So alien technology being donated into the forest at Minley Manor, where you can do your dog walking. It involved 2 Harrier jump jets, a lot of soldiers recovering the stuff and bringing it in. So at the same time in Minley, approximately, that summer of 77, Minley Manor, Farnborough, another major facility involving the ETs of many different types. Many have left in different eras. Things change in this business. So when you hear a story from 1962 about something, things have moved on. That's another fine lady, Georgina Bruni, a very fine lady. She gave the book, wrote the book, You Can't Tell the People. And that was a phrase from Mrs. Thatcher. Well, we have to tell the people, and we have to tell them now, and we have to give them data and information. And that's Larry. And Gary Heseltine published a major book last year titled Non-Human. So the ET phrase is being dropped, and we're dealing with non-human entities, which means we're dealing with terrestrial, interdimensional, and all sorts of things. And I'm going to say that, the guy, it doesn't matter, the thought's gone. So that's the late Hilary Porter, and Hilary explained in her detailed research. Hilary Porter was an eyewitness in a Marconi facility, April 1974. Aliens, ETs, or some non-human beings accessed the drawing office. That's when things were drawn on huge A0 sheets of paper. That's when designs were all there in the drawing office. These security guys said, what the hell can we do? They just come in, they just gate in. They didn't say that, but they just come in. There was a whole security alert that day. Hillary had access all areas. She was just a little secretary bringing drawings to different parts of the base. So she had the ability to walk around the whole base just seeing what was going on. And the head of the base, she sort of sat outside and overheard the base commander, or the guy running the base, talking to the MOD, saying, what the hell can we do here? But this is... So there's Marconi Defence, Britain, accessed by ETs, all their secrets, how to look at. Sometime later in her research, this huge facility, this huge craft, she called it a manta, overflew the west of London and the forest area, and came in and landed into the Farnborough airfield, right? Into it. So there's some more stuff. These are the other facilities and bases. They all go in lovely manor houses. Is this a manor house? Okay, there's a little bit of... okay, there's James and James Casbolt there, and then 2 other characters. Tragic story, terrible story. Sarah Adams and Max Spears when they came here to shoot a few years ago, and that's also when he was then filmed by Channel 4 for Channel 4, and that was a month or 2 before he was to reach his death. I'm going to get past here. This is the 2 programs which involved a serious analysis of what was going. The Great UFO Conspiracy. Max was involved with that, and that's still probably one of the best. It's UFO serious UFO secrecy documentaries that I managed to get made. I basically sort of give people a nudge. Richard T. Hall was meant to be in that documentary, but Richard T. Hall was too important, so I had to do it again. Tragic. Another. I don't know if it was worse, more tragic than Max Spears' death, but that's another thing. That before that was 10 years ago. It's 12 years ago since we've had the Confessions of an Alien Abductee documentary that started as a very serious documentary in Channel 4. Again, this was exposing the general public to alien abduction, and it was shot in a serious manner. That's when Simon Parkes was first brought on scene. Another lady, I've had a mental blank on that. The two ladies and myself. And anyway, Confessions of an Alien Abductee is now currently available on several YouTube sites and a TV channel, I think. The point about that was that it involved an awful lot of very high-level intelligence. When we were filming scenes with Marie Kayali, I went out for a bit of lunch. I was followed by at least 8 agents. I was looking for chips, just, you know. I am looking for the secret chip shop. I must get the right one. I got the secret chip shop. And then there was this tramp came in, another guy came in, another guy in a suit came in. They didn't buy anything, they just sort of hung around. I'm just eating chips, you know. Maybe I was trying to leak some alien intelligence to the aliens. Anyway, this is another thing because it's another year's gone by and his mother is not happy. That's his brother and Max. This is an interesting thing because I was told by certain researchers that when Max was in Burnworthy Manor in the Blackdown Mountains in Dorset, I think, it's where a lot of the training for the British super soldier situation happened. And our super soldier training, as the NSA super soldier training, was flawed, so it didn't work properly. And there's important reasons for this. But bearing in mind that Max died twice, and there's an awful lot more on that within the secret type community. This is an interesting... This is in Canterbury.
This is the gate. This is the west gate here. Yeah. And this is 1,000 years old.
Yeah.
And so Canterbury itself is 1,300 years old.
And apparently you know you know who I am.
I do know who you are, and
do you know where I live?
And I also know
because in Belfast we always know where you live.
And I also know who's buried where I'm going to show you who I was.
Right.
Because if they made it square, the demons could...
The important thing is this spans many lifetimes.
So they'd slip off.
I thought it was by cannonballs. No?
No.
I'm sorry about the black striping on the picture.
Yes. And that's where they did that. This is all sacred geometrically done as well. You can't see it here.
It had to be hyperspatially valid.
Absolutely. This is multidimensional right here. Multidimensional. The interesting thing is when you walk through the center here, you get, if you're sensitive, you get the feelings.
Yeah, the old churches have that.
Wait till you see this one.
Yeah. This is just to let you know that these castles
maybe
new
ones
don't.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. The golden key.
Yes. Next to the dragon.
Yeah.
If you don't have the key, you can't get out of here. And you're trapped again in the Ouroboros loop. And I'm done, because I've done it 4 times already. This time we're doing what we're doing now, we've done 4 times before. You've done it before, done it 4, and we fucked up each time before. Yeah. And I'm not going to do it this time. Good. I'm gone. Good. This time around. Good. So, if you want to stay, stay.
Well, that should tell it all. Again, he did manage to come back. He came back for a 3rd time, realized it's better I went. Okay, one of the super soldiers that we've been dealing with, and a lot of the information which came out is a guy called John Irwin. He approached me around about the mid-2000s. He's written this extremely good book, which is still available if you get the right one. The 16, One Step Beyond. Now, the important thing about this book is this was his final publication. That's some upstart of a guy from the United States called Sean Stone. And so he was over having a lot of deep conversations with John Irwin, this is in the centre of Newcastle. That's up north. And the point about this is that Irwin's team, they found just before they went into this base to take it out, the 16 was a special operations force, special operations, and there were 16 of them. You hear a lot more about special operations stuff. They were going into this base at Jarraba. They recovered what they were going to find, and they found 2 of these. The mission was to get 2 of those, which were like the Emerald Tablets, but they're not the Emerald Tablets. The important thing also is that John Irwin, who's a very serious and lethally trained soldier, is talking 2 flying saucers, very rough and rather battered flying saucers, took off before they went in. They successfully recovered, got their mission. They were these devices were able to give vital portal technology and an awful lot of information about advanced technologies, but they were a group of about 5 or maybe 9 data banks, thousands of years old. They didn't get all the data, but they still tried playing around with these toys like portals and all sorts of other things without necessarily the safeguards, which is why a lot of people who use these things end up getting sick or they can't use them anymore. This is another example of a front agent. This is Angela Power Disney and the wonderful Kathy Morgan, who I met last week, only a couple of days ago. She's on great form. She's got 6 daughters, and she lives down in Dingle. The thing about Angela Power Disney is that she was what I call a hostile witness. In other words, she was doing a spy operation on me. This picture, with a bunch of others I took with her, ended up in a little video that Google sent me saying, oh, this is a nice memory that you might want to say hello to. This is something she said about Jimmy Savile. Now, the point about this is this illustrates a direct connection with British intelligence and the IRA, where her father, in her own words, was able to leave Cork in the Cork IRA, go straight up to the base in Sydenham and immediately join the RAF. But we're going to move on from that. We don't have time, if I can.
1981, that's me, Jimmy Savile, sorry, my mother, my father, my baby sister.
Anyway, that should just join there. Now, Nick Pope has, in my opinion, transmitted secret information in the clear, in plain language. Now, when anybody who knows Nick Pope's ability to present, is that he will say, for instance, that is a chandelier, it has got lights on it. And you will see that that chandelier has got lights on it. Later on in his presentation, he will deny that chandelier is there and say it doesn't have lights on it. The purposes of that is to speak the truth to you, but then deny it within the same conversation. And he did this on many occasions. On this occasion, and this thing in early 2024, he gave a talk at the Ozark Secret, a secret too terrible to be told. And this is where he's now saying in his talk that you've got stuff like the Alpha Draconis, satanic stuff, all involved with this whole subject. Now, when somebody talks in the clear and gives the kind of information that he did at that talk, that means we are in trouble. Okay? Now, originally, when I interviewed Nick Pope in 2009, he had a bit of a lapse of his, I'm saying something definite, but I'm not, and I may not have, or could have, maybe. And this is a bit of fun, actually.
We've certainly, of course, fired on them with gun cameras, but I better not answer that question.
Oops. Oh, dear. Which means we've got them on radar, we fly up, we're up close, we've got photographs of them, we've got loads of pictures, they're physical, We're engaging them. We may be shooting them down. Oh, but there's no such thing as a UFO. And that is these pictures. Later on, years later, this is Pete Wiltshire. He's just passed on another. This is going over 30 years. Pete Wiltshire was playing his country and western stuff at a base in England, a major US facility. And he was playing his country music, and cutting to a long story, there was a break in the evening's entertainment, and he was talking with the airmen and these pilots and things, and he happened to mention the word UFO. And immediately they all just stood back and cleared out of the way. And then these two gentlemen came and took him, slightly by force, to the base commander, where he was interrogated aggressively. The base commander then said, look, this is ridiculous. When are you next playing? You're staying overnight. Okay, so stayed overnight. Next morning, he was invited back to the office, where he was given dozens of 10x8s of close-up color pictures of 3 or 4 different types of ET craft. The natural ones, the organic ones, the nuts and bolts stuff, the stuff that we would make. And that was over 30 years ago. He was told, don't tell anybody about this, for 25 years. So he finally told us a couple of years ago, and that's an admission again under the carpet that we have got ET facilities, and we're meeting them and doing stuff. Another person that we dealt with was Valery Uvarov. Now this is where the Earth Defense System, that's the emergency self-destruct system for the Earth, has now become active. I've been speaking to a friend of one of the persons you just interviewed on Wednesday, a guy called Ryan Velli, and he concurs with my analysis that something to self-destruct this planet has now been activated. That is to say, with the shut portals, whatever's on this planet which is toxic will not leave, and it will be completely and absolutely disassembled into nothing, beyond nothing, and wiped out. That system is now active. It will do so. And there's only two gates left for them to leave. This is when we did the Amash Project, the Confessions of an Alien Abductee thing. And Joanne was invited down by John Walson, who was hopefully going to be here tomorrow. And I don't want to go do that. This is a little bit on Tim Refat, which is just to give you a flavour of him. Is that going to play? This is St. Bartholomew's Church in Brighton. This is a high technology device, an energetic device in plain sight. This is MI6's former magic man.
That's good. We started. Brilliant.
What he's doing is he's getting energy from the structure of the church into crystals. These are technological devices.
So this is the perfect Freemasonic church, 169 feet long, with an extra foot for the doorway, which is 30.
And that's Tim again complaining that his.
Most certainly.
This is a little clip we'll just run.
So the ley line before it comes to the church. So let's see if we can find it.
This is High Street Centre, Brighton.
No.
All of these places are set up with energetic properties.
So the ley lines.
That's where you live up there.
Yeah, but the ley lines aren't constricted. They come in from the sea along this natural channel, and then one of those ice-based generators constricts the ley line, and then of course you can add information to the ley line, which then feeds the humans. Remember, humans are little bubbles of earth energy, so the churches can be used then to completely control the information, the causality, and of course the multiverse that these little bubbles of energy inhabit.
So there.
As a scientist.
Okay, this is a little bit of a thing about that St. Morgan, Leonard Wolson. John Leonard Wolfson will be here. That's his book. Buy the book. This is just for the purposes of he wanted this to be well and truly stated. Hello again and again, my congratulations on your superb astrophotography. You are clearly getting some images at almost the diffraction limit of your telescope. In the very sharpest images, there are hints of diffraction rings visible in the edges of the satellites. That is, of course, the absolute limit of optical performance and is only rarely attained. So what he's saying here is this is a top astronomer of extremely high-level qualifications, explaining that what he's doing is at the very limit of the technology that he's been able to use to get these images. Interesting, the process you have of using high-quality imaging system with fast readout and then selecting the rare perfect images is something which has been developed and applied somewhat by one of my colleagues here, which means they have got these images, and that's what they're getting. These are massive structures. Now that is basically a submarine with a bunch of hyperspatial drive engines on them. Okay? That looks like some kind of weapons platform. Again, these are in his book. These are huge craft in orbit that he's got pictures of, and this book will invite you to modify what they are. You can.
I've met a few people that say
look at that.
They're quite big.
And one Star of these Wars
is what destroyed
battle cruiser.
World Trade Center 1, 2, and 7.
Wow. One of these?
Yeah. Because what it did is it has a weapon that uses molecular dissociation.
Wow.
And what it does is it broadcasts low-frequency waves which disintegrates the makeup of matter.
Wow.
That's why when the World Trade Center blew up, there was nothing left. You know, the biggest thing left was 80 microns in diameter. That's why there was so much dust. But there was no airplane, and, you know, that's all.
Okay, that is John's thing. Let's go. Yeah, we're at the end, and that's...
I just want to say, some of those craft may have been designed by William Tompkins. They may be a few of ours.
Yes. Well, that's it. I've speeded on. And in other words, it's up to you, okay? Educate yourself, manifest yourself. Don't watch too many of those YouTube videos. It's important to get informed, but don't fall into the trap of being seduced into this fear thing. I have witnesses who've been with the Alpha Draconis. They don't want you to be unafraid. They want you to be very afraid. If you're not afraid and you have a bit of a sense of humor and you take the joke about, well, your wings are too big and your feet are too big, they all sort of shiver because, oh, you're insulting me and I don't want to be insulted. And again, hopefully they're here tomorrow. And if they aren't, that's a little sample of their stuff. Buy this book now. Part 1 of a series of 20. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kerry. Thank you.